Hello students, welcome to Legacy As Academy. In today's video, we are going to discuss about the response of China toward the Prime Minister Modi's remark that he gave during one of the podcasts, where China has appreciated Prime Minister Modi's remarks and has sent or has given what you can call as a positive signal as far as the development of relations between India and China is concerned. So let us try to understand this entire issue in more detail. Now, why we are talking about this particular issue? So recently, if we talk about in a particular press conference that was held by the spokesperson of the Chinese Ministry of External Affairs, it has welcomed PM Modi's recent remarks on the Indo-China tides. It has especially highlighted that when a relation between two countries already had seen what you can call as another because of the border confrontation in 2020, especially along the line of actual control, Galwan Valley clashes and all that. Obviously, during such situation, taking that into cognizance, we have to understand that dialogue rather than discord should guide bilateral relations. So, and that is something that is what we are seeing a change in the stance of China. It also has noted that PM Modi's recent positive statement on the bilateral relation between both countries is appreciated by the Chinese government and such. So now we talk about this particular issue and what kind of statement was given by the spokesperson. So first of all, the term that was used to represent the Indo-China relation is what we can translate as a cooperative dance between the elephant and the dragon. Now we know that in the bilateral, when we talk about the international relations, when we talk about diplomacy, both of countries are generally referred as elephant and dragon. For example, elephant is used to represent India, while dragon is used to represent China, the two important animals in the cultural history of both countries as well. So a cooperative dance between elephant and dragon, that is how at least China is trying to see the relation between both countries going ahead from now. Now, mutual success is the only choice for both sides. While talking about that, obviously there is going to be a dance, there is going to be some sort of disagreement between both the nations. But one thing that they agree upon, or at least China for now has accepted, that the mutual success, the success of both China and India, is the only choice for both sides. There cannot be any other way out, there cannot be any other alternative. Now, let us try to also understand that in a podcast that Prime Minister Modi has recorded with the Lex Friedman, American, what you can call as podcaster, what actually he has said. So, obviously, the podcast was very long, it lasted for almost 3 hours, during which Prime Minister has commented on several different issues and topics. But the interesting comment on several issues have went viral, and one of that was the take of Prime Minister on the China. Now, Modi's comment in China indicate a thaw in the India-China ties, obviously, especially after the meeting of the Prime Minister Modi with the Xi Jinping, the president of China, on the what you can call as the background of the Kazan summit, that where the BRICS summit was held in last year. So basically, that time in the summit, they have agreed that the disengagement should be the way forward from now on along the border of India and China. After that, we know that the meeting between the special representative of both India and China took place, and they began to disengage from the border areas. Many of the patrolling points which Indian forces were not given access to since 2020, they were again granted access back, and this is obviously a positive development that we can see. Recently, as a reciprocal arrangement, then India has also allowed the direct flights to be resumed between India and China as soon as possible. Plus, India has welcomed and invited FDI from China into various different sectors. So all these are pointing toward a thaw in the Indo-China relationship. And in this context, we have to understand the statement that has come from both sides, Indian side and Chinese side. Now, what Prime Minister has said, that both India and China should engage in a healthy and natural competition. Now, obviously, when you are competing with the same resources, when you are taking care of such a humongous population that both country has, there will be a competition, but this competition should be healthy and natural in nature, while ensuring that the differences do not escalate into disputes. Again, referring to the border crisis and the crisis in the trade, or we can say the conflict in the trade as well, trading this business and trade as well. Now, also Prime Minister has underlined and highlighted that the Indo-China relationship is not a new relationship. It has not developed in past couple of decades or even past 1 century. Rather, India and China has enjoyed deep historical ties for thousands and thousands of years, as both countries have been one of the ancient civilization of the world, and also one of the connecting link of both countries has been always Buddhism. So deep historical ties between two nations, and he also has underscored the need for dialogue over discourse. So along this statement is where his remark has come. Now against this also China has responded. Obviously China has also talked about the fruitful discussion and positive outcome of the meeting between the two leaders along the BRICS summit, on the sidelines of BRICS summit in the Kazan, the city in Russia. And also they have acknowledged the 2000 plus years of history of interaction between the two ancient civilizations of the world. Two countries have maintained friendly exchanges and learned from each other. That is what the China has said, contributing to the civilizational achievements and human progress. As the world's two largest developing nations, China and India share common goals of development and revitalization. So you can see a lot of common points that seems to be coming from both India and China side. That is why experts are arguing that India and China are witnessing currently a resumption of the ties or a thaw in the relation. Now, obviously, we talk about that the ties, if it becomes better between India and China, it will have a huge implications for a lot of people, especially among the Indian and Chinese citizens, because you know that even today India and China are the two most populous nations of the world, collectively holding about 2.8 billion people within its geographical territory. So any betterment in ties, any benefit that is spilled over in the sphere of economy, in the sphere of friendly interaction, in the sphere of cultural area, in the sphere of the tourism, obviously will serve the fundamental interest of all the people. It will also meet the common aspiration of regional country, because you know that in the case of Asia specifically, or also when we use the term global south, a lot of countries are looking forward to have a better ties between India and China, because they need support of both these countries for their own development, for their own economic betterment. So it will also follow the historical trend of global south, growing stronger and conducive to world peace. And not only that, but also better ties between India and China will further the interest of global south, where it want to see a world developing in a multipolar nature, rather than having a single pole, unipole of United States, or bipole of US and Russia, or a tripole of US, China, Russia. Rather, what we want is a multipolar world, and the better relation between India and China will obviously strengthen that particular objective and aims as well. Now, what is the general message from China that we should take after the reaction on the PM Modi's statement? So, first of all, experts argue that China and India definitely should be partner contributing to each other's success, and most importantly, this is reflected in the trade volume and the value between both countries as well. For example, if we talk about the bilateral trade between both countries stand at around $140 billion in the last fiscal year, and China is the second largest trading partner of India after the United States. Earlier, a few years back, China was even the largest trading partner of India. So that is where obviously our focus should be, so that this volume, there is a lot of potential which can be which can be tapped, and the trade volume can definitely be increased to $200 billion in next few coming years. Now, as we discussed, the statement given by the Chinese diplomat is cooperative pas de deux, that is a ballet dance between the Indian elephant and the Chinese dragon, to describe the necessity of maintaining a stable ties. China is ready to work with India to implement the understanding between their leaders, obviously referring to the disengagement and restoring of mutual trust between both countries as far as the border contention and border issues is concerned. Also, this becomes significant because in this particular year, India and China are celebrating the 75th anniversary of diplomatic ties that was established after the People's Republic of China was recognized by India, and this should be something that should be taken as an opportunity by both nations to strengthen the bilateral relations further. This is the message that China is trying to give. Now, Prime Minister Modi was also appreciated and also was praised by many of the international relations experts because of his pragmatic statement. His statement about Indo-China relationship does not only come from desire, does not only come from what he want to see in the future, but rather it is also pragmatic in nature. The reason is because we cannot deny and refute the fact that India and China in Asia are two largest countries and also are neighbor to each other. and the differences between neighbors, whether it is about the geographical dispute, whether it is about the trade dispute, whether it is about the aspirational dispute, or we can say the aspirational competition, is something that cannot be refuted. So we also have to keep in mind the deep cultural ties that he has talked about. Also, he has highlighted that India and China at one point of time contributed over 50% of global GDP. So by saying this, he also is trying to give a statement that if both countries work together, similar kind of significance at the global level countries can further what you can say countries can further achieve as well. The cooperation between the two countries is not just beneficial but essential for global peace and prosperity. So this is not something that we can call as an optional, but rather it is something that both countries will have to agree that it is the only way out. Now, if we talk about the thaw that has come in the relation between both countries, what can be the contributing factor behind this? Now, it can be classified as both global factors as well as the national factors or domestic factors. If we talk about the global factors first, the headwinds have changed, especially after the US President Donald Trump has taken the helm of the administration, and he has then pushed forward his policy of tariff, imposing tariff on almost all the major partners of the United States, whether it is China, Canada, Mexico, India, or whosoever. So this tariff policy has led to a fear of, or to some extent realization of, a global trade war between the major economies, and this has then created a sense of urgency among the Chinese diplomats and Chinese leadership to find some alternative so that the burden of this trade war can be minimized on the Chinese people and the Chinese government, Chinese companies. Now, also other thing that has changed significantly is under the previous administration, Russia and US were quite at conflict with each other. They are not seeing eye to eye with each other, especially after the beginning of Ukraine invasion. However, now Trump is also trying to play a role of peacemaker. He even has favored Russia in many situations, and it seems that he wants US to bring closer to the Russia. Now, as long as US and Russia were against each other, were competing, or were kind of rivals, at least in the previous administration, China and Russia ties were getting a reset. They are becoming more and more closer. That we can again see changing in the near future. So these two major changes might have pushed China to find and seek alternatives, or to basically align its foreign policy to suit its own interest. Now, a strong trade partnership obviously is a building block, or what you can see is the base behind the relation of India and China. Plus, India also is willing to increase and enhance its trade with China, especially because it is heavily dependent on Chinese import, especially in the field of renewable energy or electric vehicle, which the government of India is largely pushing forward. So this is how we can understand the entire spectrum of the thought, entire spectrum of the relationship, and the reason behind that. However, in conclusion, we can understand that after the meeting between both leaders, China and Indian relationship had made a positive stride, with both sides implementing the important consensus since the meeting in Kazan. That is, disengagement in the along the line of actual control is one such implications. However, India, it has remained cautious about normalizing ties with China. There is a large sense and degree of optimism, but this optimism is what we can refer as a cautious optimism. And this we can also understand from the statement that was given by External Affairs Minister of India, Dr. S. Jayasankar, when he visited and met Wang Yi, the Foreign Minister of China, where he has clearly stated that there is urgent need to restore the mutual trust. Obviously, that trust was broken when Chinese entered into the Indian side of the line of actual control, Indian side of the Ladakh, and also there were repercussions of it. A lot of soldiers lost their life from both sides. So that mutual trust to some extent has broken. And also jointly maintain border peace. Unless and until both countries work forward in these spheres, the relations in other sphere will become a victim of the border confrontation and border issue. So to reset the relationship, the entire spectrum of bilateral relationship, these are the two major points for which countries should work to restore mutual trust and border peace. So that is how we can understand and include the entire discussion about reset in the Indo-China relationship, and in what context we can understand the statement of Prime Minister Modi on China and the Chinese response to that particular remark of Prime Minister. So that is all for this particular video. If you like the video, please hit the like button, share it with your fellow aspirants, as well as subscribe to our channel for more such content.